सिया राम।
जो जीवन का सार समझ ले जीवन उसका है, जर्रा निकाले जो माटी सब कंचन उसका है, जर्रा निकाले जो माटी सब कंचन उसका है। परती हटाता चल मन को सजाता चल, परती हटाता चल मन को सजाता चल, मिल जाएंगे राम नाम का अलख जगाता चल, मिल जाएंगे राम धुन गाता चल, राम धुन गाता चल, मिल जाएंगे राम नाम का अलख जगाता चल, मिल जाएंगे राम धुन गाता चल, 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 राम धुन गाता चल।
राम सिया राम जय जय राम सिया राम। 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 राम सिया राम जय जय राम सिया राम।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति Together we will chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verses 1 to 10.
अथ पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः। श्रीभगवानुवाच ऊर्ध्वमूलमधः शाखम् अश्वत्थम् प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्। अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखाः गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः। अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके। न रूपमस्येह तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा। अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा। ततः पदं तत्परिमार्गितव्यम् यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूयः तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्तिः प्रसृता पुराणी निर्माणमोहाजितसङ्गदोषाः अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ताः सुखदुःखसंज्ञैः गच्छन्त्यमूढाः पदमव्ययं तत् न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः षष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः
Today, we are blessed to start the study of chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. This is about as close as the Gita gets to being an Upanishad. Upanishad may be a very difficult study for us now, but this is the closest we are going to get. And maybe we should just take 1 second for all of us to just say thank you to the Lord that we have this opportunity today. And no matter how many times we will say or learn this chapter, it would never ever be enough. So here is one more chance we all have to study. For those who have already studied it, there's one more chance. And for those who have not yet studied it, well, wonderful to hear it for the very, very first time. This is a chapter which is very difficult. Everybody says very difficult chapter. But you will see how easy it is. It is a very, very strange thing. If you read it, it's very easy. It's not difficult at all. But when you start thinking about it, then you begin to realize how much more this chapter has than what is sort of evident right in the beginning on the face of it. So before we start, just so that we get our focus clear, let's do a very quick summary of what this chapter is about so that we can focus on what this is. It's very important in Vedanta to always follow the line of thought. If we don't follow the line of thought, we will not get the message that is being said, because these things can be interpreted in various ways. So how would you know that you are interpreting it correctly? Because the flow of thought is maintained. His flow of thought is maintained. And you can see that he's talking about this. And it's very, very clear. He puts it very clearly, if only we can get it. So what does this chapter talk about? It has 4 broad points. Please take note of these 4 broad points because you're going to follow them in the chapter. Right in the beginning, he tells us that Brahman, God, reality, the transcendental, is the entire macrocosm. Okay, that's the first 6 verses. Then the next 6 verses, that's 7 to 11, tell us that this Brahman, the reality, the transcendental, is the microcosm. Macrocosm means the whole, and microcosm means the individual. So first he tells us that all of this is Brahman. Then he tells us that this is Brahman, the individual is Brahman. Then in the third topic, he tells us how the essence in both is Brahman. At the moment, just note it down so you will follow the line of thought because all this will require explanation. How the third, that is verses 12 to 15, tells us that the essence of it is Brahman. See, when you say macrocosm is Brahman or microcosm is Brahman, I am God. So what does it mean, I am God? Does it mean that this body is God? Does it mean that the mind is God? Does it mean that the intellect is God? What does it mean to say I am God? Or what does it mean to say that this macrocosm, the entire universe is God? What's that supposed to even mean? Many people say, oh, the universe brought this to me and the universe brought that to me. What are these sentences supposed to mean, if anything? So what he says is, it is not those perceivable things, but the essence of it, which is Brahman. And the fourth topic, which is really the full toss of this chapter, which is 16 to 20, is how Brahman is beyond the microcosm and the macro. First he says it is, then he says it's the essence, and finally he says it is beyond. Don't please struggle to understand all of this. We have 20 verses to explain what this means, so we'll go step by step. But just keep the flow in mind so that you can follow the line of thought nicely and the chapter is sort of clear. Is the flow clear? First he says, I am the macrocosm. Then he says, I am the microcosm. This is the kshara, the perishable. Then he says, I am the akshara in the shara. I am the essence. I am the imperishable in the perishable. And then finally he says, I am beyond the perishable and the imperishable. Now, don't struggle to understand it at this stage because it is a full toss. But just write it down and remember it so that you're able to follow this chapter very, very easily. Now, here this chapter talks about a very, very important mystical symbol, the Ashwatha tree. This mysticism or this symbolism that takes place in education, in spiritual education, is a very important part of this education. You would have seen all the sages, all the saints, all the books talk in some kind of mystical, symbolical way. And unfortunately, we fall for the symbolism rather than getting what it is talking about. For instance, take what is very popular in this city, Ganesha. So why are we worshipping an elephant-headed god? It just seems very odd, right? If you stop to think of it. Firstly, you made a god. Then you've given them an elephant head. What is the meaning in this thing? So if you stop to think about it, you see how beautifully they're expressing a Vedantic idea over there. Why did they choose an elephant's head? Why not a zebra's head? Why elephants? Why not a horse's head or a monkey's head? Any other head? Why elephant's head? Because it's actually the largest head. So when you put a very large head, you're showing that this is a very, very wise person. A very large head he has. It's just a symbolism. Now, why do we say he's so wise? Because he has these big ears by which he does Shravana. He has listened. And with those ears, he has listened, he has heard very carefully. That is the first step. And with his head, he has done manana. Large head, no? So he's done manana. Means he's done reflection on what he has studied. And because of this, he has this big trunk. What does the trunk symbolize? The trunk symbolizes the intellect, because the trunk has a very, very particular characteristic. The elephant's trunk can pick up, as you know, pick up a log. It can also pick up a needle. So the human intellect is of two types: the gross intellect, the subtle intellect. The gross intellect can do discrimination within the world: tall, short, black, white, day, night, all the way up to nuclear physics, all the discrimination that takes place in the world. And the subtle intellect can do discrimination between the whole world on one side and something else on the other. We can tell the difference between world and not world, between matter and spirit, between God and not God. Then no, everybody can't tell. Every human being can. Every human being can. Because every human being has a subtlety. What about the atheists? They can also tell. The simple experiment let us do. Suppose I ask Vijay, do you believe in Kiripoto? Kiripoto? Do you believe in Kiripoto? What's your answer? No? Kanchan Roy, do you believe in Kiripoto? What do you believe or not believe? What? Everybody's very quiet. Rajarshi
I
Roy.
don't know what it is.
Yes. You can't answer that question. Correct. You can't answer that question. How can you answer the question, do you believe in Kiripoto? If I ask you, do you believe in Kiripoto? Your question to me will be,
What is Kiripoto?
what is
Who is
Kiripoto? Suppose I ask an atheist, do you believe in God? His answer is no.
God.
No. If I ask an atheist, do you believe in God? His answer is?
Who is God? What is God?
His answer is no. What does an atheist mean? Please, I hope you all are listening. Atheist means, what does atheist mean?
Who doesn't believe in God?
A person who doesn't believe in God. So ask an atheist, do you believe in God? His answer will always be
No.
right.
Hmm.
So when you say, I don't believe in God, the assumption is that you have
conceived what God is.
very good. You have conceived what God is. Therefore, we assert that every human being has a subtle intellect. You have conceived there is world, there is something other than the world. Now, I don't believe that there is something other than the world. You made that conception. That is your humanity. That is your human nature. You can tell this. Can you have this discussion with a monkey, with a snake, with a butterfly? Do you believe in God? What will the butterfly do? It will just fly off. I can't, there's no transaction, right? So every human being has a subtle intellect, right? So when you have, remember where we were? When you've done your Shravana, when you've done your Manana, you've heard carefully, very carefully. That's why large ears. The Indian elephant has very large ears. Heard very carefully and thought about what you have heard. You have made no mistake in the hearing and you have carefully considered what you have heard. You will develop your intellect, which means you'll develop your gross intellect, you will develop your subtle intellect, like the trunk of the elephant that can pick up a log and can pick up a needle. Now we're not going into the discussion on Ganesha. Why did we start this discussion on Ganesha?
Because in the current chapter,
Importance of symbolism.
Very good. I'm glad somebody is listening. Right, because we are just saying that this entire spiritual knowledge is given to us in these mystical symbols, in all these ways, on beautiful ways, poetry, which give us all these wonderful symbols, like how Wordsworth says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. So what symbolism? Or our Ganesha or Shiva, everything is all this symbolism. If you want to know more about it, you can go and listen to the channel there. I think there are quite a few videos on the symbolisms of various gods, goddesses, rituals, and all this. You can have a here if you like. But it's very important part of the transaction of knowledge. And the reason it is given is it forces us to think. Anybody who has studied Vedanta at all will know that there are 4 ways or 6 ways, whichever one you want, of learning anything. The first way is through pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means you know it by perception. How do you know currently that there is a class on? You all know at the moment that the class is on, right? How do you know this?
we can see it and hear it.
Yeah, you can see it, you can hear it. So the first way we learn anything, pratyaksha, sense perception. The second way you learn anything is through inference. For instance, right here in the class, you know the class is going on. You also know that you currently have internet. Can you see internet? No, but you know the internet is there. How do you know the internet is there? The internet in your house is working. How do you know this?
We
Because
see
we
you.
are able to attend the program.
Right. Isn't it? You can't see whether the internet is working or not, but your Zoom is working, so you know that your internet is working. That's by inference. This is the second way one can learn something. The third way one can learn something is through comparison. All this mystical symbolism that we use, this is all ways of teaching through comparison. You say, okay, like Ganesha has a trunk which has 2 capacities, so will your manana give you 2 capacities. You learn by comparison. And the fourth way we learn is through authorities, Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana, like we are about to study. We're studying the Gita. When we try to learn something from the Gita, we'll take it on the authority of the Gita. We are taking Shabda Pramana, means by an authority. When you take your doctor's prescription and you buy the medicine, then you take the medicine, which Pramana are you using?
Shabda Praman.
Shabda Pramana. Authority. You're following an authority. Why are you following an authority?
Because
I
it's a-
believe in it.
Because
I
you
believe in it.
Coming from the doctor. So
Yes, so why are you following it?
More knowledgeable than
Believe in it.
Authority.
Because you don't
Authority.
know
He's
about
got
it.
authority.
I don't know, and I believe he knows. These 2
Authority.
things have to be there. Yeah. Then you're following authority. I don't know, but this person knows. I will follow what this person does. When your architect gives you a plan and you follow it, why do you follow it? I don't know, but this person knows. That is called Shabda Pramana. Right? So now he's going to teach us through all these ways, but right in the beginning, he uses the upama, the comparison, the mystical symbolism to express a very subtle idea. Because sometimes it's just so much easier to express it through a symbolism rather than to express it directly. And the symbolism makes us think. It enforces manana. Right? So with this, so far it's all clear. Any questions up to this point? I hope you followed the line of thought. that this is a very Upanishadic kind of chapter. We are indeed blessed to be able to study it, and it gives us, as close to Upanishad as the Gita gets. Now, it teaches us through mystic symbolism, which we are about to do, because there are 4 ways you can gain knowledge. He is going to use the 3rd way. Do you remember which were the 4 ways? Anybody who is new can tell us. First way was
Perception.
perception. Pratyaksha. Very good. Only new people, please tell us.
No, sir.
Because all these old students are all going to show off now. So don't. You all know it. I know you know it. Okay, number 1, pratyaksha. Second one,
Learning through inference.
learning through inference. Very good. This is anumana. Third one was
Comparison.
comparison. Very good. And fourth one,
Learning
Shabda
from an
Pramana.
example.
Shabda Pramana.
Authority.
pramana. 4 of them. First verse or first few verses, the method he uses predominantly is
Comparison.
Comparison. Symbolism.
comparison. Yes, very good. Right. So we are all together up to this point. All good so far? Oh, there are a couple of things on the chat. Let me see. Pulipati Buchia. Who is God? Who is God? Is it in physical form or just assumption? Why should we worship idols? Can we be spiritual without God? Shall we, Pulipati, shall we do the chapter first? Let us see what this whole chapter is explaining what is God. The whole purpose of this chapter is to explain what is God. So why don't we do the chapter? And if after the chapter you still have this question, then please bring it up. Is that fine?
Ma'am, I just wanted to know that you mentioned the 3 part. The other part is the eye, which is very small in case of the elephant. So why it is not symbolizing something which is relevant to this chapter?
Okay. I wasn't trying to do the symbolism of Ganesha. I was just trying to give an example to show how these things are communicated. So there's so much more in Ganesha. If we started doing Ganesha, then this whole class will be only Ganesha. Well, just like an example, an illustration to show how in spirituality, all these various tools are used to communicate ideas. So yes, there's a lot more, but we're not going there at the moment. Okay, Jaydeep?
Thank you. Thank you.
So anyone has anything else? Okay, so let's start with the first and one most famous verses. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Shakam Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid. Tapan, you have a question? Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Blessed Lord said. As you know, the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between the Lord Shri Krishna and Arjuna on the field of Kurukshetra. The battle is about to begin. The kettle drums have been blown. Everybody has lifted up their arms. And our friend Arjuna collapses in the battlefield. He is unable to fight this battle, this major, decisive battle of his life. In every way, he's prepared. He has all the knowledge, all the abilities. He has everything he requires to be able to fight and win this battle. But he has lost his capacity. And this is symbolic of life, where we lose access to our own abilities, our own qualities, our own knowledge. And when do we lose it? When there's a real challenge. As soon as you really require your abilities, they seem to be shut down. So what does the Bhagavad Gita do? It enables you to express your personality in its complete manner at all times. Just be yourself, no matter what happens. The best of things and the worst of things, you will stay equanimous. Just like the Lord is himself staying equanimous. And this is the knowledge he has given to Arjuna, so that Arjuna can face any challenge that life may have to show him. Because we are all great philosophers. Until the problem is ours. Everybody else's problem, we are very philosophical. But the problem comes to our door and we crumble. So the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita enables us to face all the challenges that life may have to offer cheerfully, happily, and with vigor and strength, fearlessly. We can go ahead with whatever it is in the world that we have to do. This is the great advantage of this knowledge. So this knowledge is given on the battlefield to show this. But most people think of Gita when you're growing too old and you have no challenges left to face other than the fact that you have some physical ailments. That is one. And the second time is people are dead. Then again they remember the Gita. Means they don't, but everybody around them remembers the Gita. What a tragedy that this great knowledge, which is expected to help us live life, is only used as a, crutch in old age. And sort of, now that somebody is dead, shall we say the Gita. Strange and sad. So it's given on the battlefield to show you've got to fight, you have to get up, you have to do whatever you have to do. You have to be active, you have to be part of life. You don't have to go retire into the jungles, into the Himalayas, but be part of it, be a productive member of your society. And your abilities will be with you, which now we are losing at the drop of a hat. So Sri Bhagavan Vacha, in this battlefield of life, the Lord advises us so. What does he say? Urdhva Moolam. Urdhva Moolam. Moolam, root. Urdhva Moolam. The root is up. Adha, below, Shakam. Ashwatham, Prahuhu, Avyayam. Asya Ashwatham, Ashwathaha. This Ashwatha is Avyayam. Avyaya, which means imperishable. And what kind of Ashwatha is it? Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam. The root is up and the Shakha, the branches, are below. Now, why is Krishna talking about an Ashwatha tree? Ashwatha is the giant, is the people tree, the Fiscus religiosa, which botanical name. It is that massive tree, you've seen the massive people tree. So why is he talking about it? And okay, chalo, he's talking about it. Why is this tree inverted? Root is above and the shakha, the branches are below. So it seemed like a full toss to us to begin with only. It started with a sixer. But no, it's not so complicated. Just think of it as a family tree. What happens in a family tree? the grandfather is on top, right? The root, the source is on top, and below the branches grow. So that's all he's talking about. It's not so complicated. Now, why has he put the root on top? Because root symbolizes, I mean, the top always symbolizes like higher ups. It symbolizes authority, it symbolizes devotion, it symbolizes source. So the root is up. What is this root? This root is Brahman, God, the transcendental reality, whatever you call it. He is the source. Towards him we have devotion. He is the authority. So he's just explaining it like a family tree. From that reality, from that truth, this whole world has emerged. So, urdhva moolam adha shakam. The moolam, the root is up, the shakha are below. If you go to Nirukta, Nirukta was written by Yaskacharya. And it's a very, very beautiful text that tells us where do words come from. Etymology in Sanskrit is really a fascinating subject. I would not suggest any of you go to it because you all will forget Vedanta and start doing etymology. So don't do that. But it's really very interesting. Like each word in Sanskrit comes from something. So shakha, you know where this word comes from? Kha represents space. Sha, like shayana, sleeping. So what is a shakha? It sleeps in space. That's how the word shakha comes about. So it's all, I mean, you go to Yaskacharya, it tells you how every word is derived, but please don't go there. Let us come back to what we are doing. So urdhva moola adha shakam. The mool is up, the shakha is down. Why is the moola? It's like a family tree. The source is up and the all whatever comes from it is below. Like grandfather's on top, then father, then sons, then blah, blah, blah. It goes on. Now, why is it shown like that? Because source, authority, all this is shown as the higher. Even when you talk of devotion, you always talk of looking up in devotion, right? So all the high represents the authority, source, devotion. That's why the mool has been put up, the root has been put up. And this Ashwatha, it represents the tree of life. Where does the tree of life start? It starts in the truth, starts in the eternal truths of life. It starts in Atman, Brahman, whatever it is you wish to call that. And then he's taken the Ashwatha tree. Ashwatha tree is very interestingly chosen and it's chosen, of course, for various reasons. The Ashwatha tree, the people tree, in olden times, people used to travel everywhere on horses. So these massive Ashwatha trees used to be places where they used to tie their horses because the horse requires a large shade, right? So there's a massive tree. So they would tie their horses there during travel so that the horses could rest. And from there comes the symbolism about how the horses are tied to this, meaning horses represent sense objects. Remember that chariot, that very famous chariot from Gita, from Kathopanishad, this horses represent the senses. Remember that? You're familiar with that chariot, the symbolism of the chariot. The horses are the senses, the lagam, the reins are the mind, and the charioteer is the intellect. And when the charioteer holds that lagam properly, when your intellect is in governance of your mind, then your senses, the horses, behave themselves and take you to your destination. But if that lagam goes loose, if the reins go loose, mind is not within the control of the intellect. Intellect is fast asleep. Then the horses go all over the place and not only don't reach a destination, they destroy the chariot. So the horses represent the sense objects. They're tied in the shade of that great Ashwatha tree. So he's chosen the Fiscus Religiosa, that's the Latin name, to symbolize the tree of life. Now, there's another way you can look at this word Ashwatha, and maybe more philosophical way of looking at it. Shwa in Sanskrit means, come on, all of you are studying Sanskrit. Shwa means
Breath.
Shwa means,
White.
I.
Shwa is tomorrow. What happened to all of y'all? Shwa means tomorrow. In Sanskrit is not. Any shoka, not sorrow. So means not. Shwa. Shwa means not tomorrow. Taha. Taha means stable, situated, sitting. That's the root for stable. So what is this tree? Shwa Taha. That which will not be the same tomorrow. It is showing the impermanence of everything that is going on around us. It is not going to be the same tomorrow. Today is not going to be what tomorrow is going to be. Means it's indicating the impermanence of this whole world. So, Urdhva Mula Madhashakam Ashwatham Rahu Avyayam. Avyayam means eternal. This impermanence is eternal. What a thing to say. Urdhva Mula Madhashakam. Urdhva Mulam Adhashakam. Ashwatham Rahu Avyayam. This very unstable thing is permanent. What does he mean it's permanent? Is it inherently permanent? No, it's changing every day. Then what is the permanence? The permanence is of the samsara which is in our minds. Whatever changes take place in the world, our involvement in these changes never seems to change. Right? I was very depressed when I was failing. I was so involved in that failure. And then when I'm succeeding, I'm so arrogant about it. And I'm very involved in the success. We don't seem to realize that no matter how much things change, things stay the same within. For instance, let us say I was earning 100 rupees. And it was my dream to earn 500 rupees. So what happens to me? I'm earning 100. I'm satisfied with 100. I'm like hoping, aspiring. I get 500. Very aspirational for me. If I get 500, then what happens? I'm very happy. And then I think, I should get 1,000. Suppose I get 1,000, then what happens? Now I want 2,000. Suppose I get 2,000. What happens? I want 4, 8, 16. It could happen that I'm earning 1 crore. And I will be thinking, when will I get 2 crores? Isn't it? So what have we ended up doing? We've ended up getting the same pain at a higher price. To get 1 crore, how much work you have to do, right? So you have the same pain, but now at a higher price. Think, humans, think. So there's a permanence in this. There's a permanence in our samsara. In our samsara means in our ways of thinking about it in such a way that we're never going to solve our problems. That is why the great Einstein has said that we can never solve the problems of our day with the same kind of thinking that created it. It is the thinking that created the problem. If you don't change the thinking, how will the problem go away? It simply won't. You're just putting in more and more effort. Sometimes they call it like you're running on a treadmill. I mean, different ways people have put it. But here's what he's saying. Ashwatham avyayam. Ashwatham, the impermanence, is permanent. How did we manage that? By getting so involved in it that in the good times and the bad times, you know, many people, when they come to spiritual life, you will notice this. Many people say, 5 years ago, I was such a fool. I got involved. I didn't understand anything. I made so many mistakes. Now I've learned. Have you heard people talk like this? Right? 5 years ago, you looked at yourself and you thought you were a fool. And today you're so smart and you have improved, no doubt about it. 5 years from today, what will happen? Will you look back on today and say, I was such a fool? Right? And 5 years from that, can you also look back and say what a fool I was? You can, right? Now think about this. At every of our 5 years, like India's 5-year plan, when I was being a complete idiot, when I know something now and when I know further, what has stayed the same? My belief that I know. When I was being a complete idiot, I thought I knew. Today, I recognize that I was a complete idiot then. And I say, now I know, okay? 5 years later, I may know something more and think, no, this wasn't quite correct. Now I know. What has stayed the same? The belief in my own knowledge. That has stayed the same. I have not learnt a very important thing, which is
Temporariness.
which is correct, but in this context,
Which is, I don't know.
I don't know. I need to know more.
I'm ignorant.
that I am ignorant. If I'm not a self-realized soul, I'm an ignorant soul. I haven't learned that. So at every stage, from my absolute stupidity to my very great abilities, at every stage I have been certain that I know it now. When will we learn that we don't? We don't learn this. So what's the point here? What's the point here? I can't keep on talking. You all also have to say something.
Ignorance is permanent.
Very good. In involvement, the samsara is permanent. Everything is changing. But my foolishness or my involvement is staying the same. At every stage in my journey, I am so convinced, now I know. In terms of knowledge, in terms of achievements, in every stage of my journey, I think, oh, there's something else for me to get. All my foolish involvements continue ever the same, no matter how much that tree changes. So he says, Ashwatham Avyayam. Otherwise, you'll say, what is he saying? First, he tells us it's impermanent. Then he tells us it's permanent. Make up your mind. That's why they think this chapter is very difficult. But it's not, right? It's quite simple if you get it. There is impermanence in the world. But my foolish mind is getting involved at every stage. That involvement is permanent. That's one way of looking at the permanence and the impermanence. There's yet another way. that my vasanas continue. So the tree continues forever. Vasanas are still there, no? So there's a relative permanence in this impermanent world. The world for me continues to be. Prahuhu. Prahuhu means so has it been said, so have they said. It is the Paroksha Bhutkal, very from ancient times. It has so been said. By the tense itself, they tell you what they want to say. So when he says prahuhu, that shows his humility and stalking. This is very, very common in all the scriptures, where the whoever is the guru in the scripture tells us, so have we heard. Like future texts will quote this one quotes Upanishadik master, so have we heard, so have we heard, so have we heard from the ancients who have instructed us. Even if you go to the Upanishads again, he says, so have we heard from the ancients who have instructed us. Prahuhu. Prahuhu refers to, we've already done it. Does anyone know what Prahuhu refers to? We've already done it in this class. So now anybody can answer this question.
Knowledge from higher authority.
Okay, say it properly in the right words. Very good. Excellent. But you said it, I think, very softly. Can you say it loudly? I don't know if everybody heard you.
Shabd Praman.
Very good. Authoritative source. Shabda Praman. So you see, he's done two here. He's done comparison and he's using Shabda Praman. What is Shabda Praman? So have we heard. Prahuhu. Prahuhu, so has it been said. Said by whom? The ancient Upanishadic masters. What have they said? That there is a tree with its root above and its branches below. And a tree that indicates the tree of life, the impermanence. And this tree is avyayam, imperishable. How can something which is impermanent be imperishable? But it is. This is a tree which is impermanent and imperishable. Which is true of a tree, right? All the leaves are perishing and the tree is still there. So permanence and impermanence coexist. Okay, now that's only the first line of the first verse. I hope first line is clear. Urdhva moolam adhashakam ashwatham prahuhu avyayam. The root is above, the branches are below of this ashwatha tree, which is permanent, which is avyayam, which is imperishable. So have we heard. So have you heard me? They speak. So has it been said. So far, so good. Why the inversion? We did, Momita. Why inversion? Because root indicates source, indicates higher, indicates, like it's like a family tree, right? So the root is above, the grandfather is on top, and then what comes out of it will flow below.
But why not give an example which is like that, which is already structured like that? Why invert the, we see the tree with its branches on top. Why not take an example where we see that the structure is top down?
Now that I think is an author's prerogative, how he wants to express it. But the reason he gives you normally they give you these shocking things is because forcing you to think. Like, what is this supposed to mean? How everything here is upside down. The roots are up, the branches are below. The tree is impermanent, but it is permanent. Like everything is upside down. That's why people find this a very tough chapter, no? So everything is complex. Not complex. It's like a riddle. And because it's a riddle, it forces you to think.
It's not like a binary thing. It's like it forces you to stretch beyond the binary, like that.
Nothing to do with binary. Binary you can use if necessary. But what he wants you to do is get to the essence of what he's talking about. That there is something higher, which we look at with devotion, which is the source where the power and authority comes from, and everything has come from there. This inverted tree is the tree of life, which, though impermanent, for each one of us is permanent.
Okay, it could also mean because it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it forces you to think. I mean, it's straight away like, what? What did you just say? If you're paying attention, you're like, what? What is that? It forces you to pause. Because normally it tells you everything in a straight manner, then you don't pause. You say, I know. The greatest barrier to learning is, I know.
Okay, thank you.
I had one question. So you talked about this relative permanence in the impermanent world, and this feeling comes from our eternal vasana and this I
One
know.
second, I'm sorry, I can't see who's talking. Who is talking?
This is Rajarshi.
Rajarshi. Oh, what a lovely name you have. Can you put your video on?
Actually, it's a bit difficult here. The
No
light
problem.
condition is, yeah.
No
So it's like you said that there is this relative permanence which appears in this impermanent world because of our this I know feeling that we say that at every stage we say I know, and also our eternal vasanas that keep on continuing. But can we not interpret this relative permanence in the impermanent world as that the knower is always constantly present? The samsara may come and go, everything may come and go, but the observer, the self is ever present. Can we not interpret in this kind of way?
In this verse, you can, but if you do it like this, what will you do when he says you have to cut it?
Maybe he would want to say that even this little, the eternal I am, which to me seems to be permanent, also merges back to that substrate consciousness, that infinite consciousness.
Difficult to put it like that because the I is already the self. It's never going to merge back, right? There is no division there. There is it. You are the self as it is. You're not going to ever merge back. That's why it becomes difficult, these interpretations, because every time you do one somewhere, it's having an effect somewhere else.
Okay.
So therefore, it's possible that you may be able to shift that meaning in some way to accommodate that. And all that exercise is a good exercise because it's forcing you to see how whether your understanding is fitting in the classical texts.
Okay.
You can do that, but you'll have to then you can't just take one verse and do it. Then you have to hold that through the text.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, Omkar.
I mean, taking from Momita's argument about why give a counterintuitive example, one was wondering if there is a lesson of psychology in this. Krishna is dealing with a very agitated mind. And when you're dealing with a very agitated mind, do you kind of confuse that mind further or you try to simplify things for the person?
Depends on the situation, Omkar, but you can't confuse, but you can give a little bit of a shock treatment, like giving a shocking statement that sort of makes that person stop. Because in that stop, in that pause, the intellect can come back. So I don't know if you would say you want to confuse him, but you can shock a person, which is what he is doing. Just given a temporary shock. What? An upside down tree? And that to Ashwatha tree, which is a massive tree. It's sort of like, what? What are you saying? Then Ashwatha, if you get to impermanence from there, then you'll say Avyayam. How? So that pause in education is the most important aspect of education. that silencing of the mind, where your intellect gets a chance to come to the surface and examine what is really happening. Your mind is reacting to the world all the time. But that reaction that takes place is coming from your likes and dislikes. And the consequence of that is the vision of the world gets warped. So that pause, that oh, you got hit. Even when people learn, oh, it struck me, it's always like, it gives you that feeling. So that pause is critical for something new to happen. Otherwise, our same run garden is going on. Garden is what? Same thing going on and on and on. And I had the same stories, repeating. Even when you come to class, the story in our head is repeating. Taking in fresh knowledge is almost next to impossible. That's why follow line of thought. At least you're listening.
Got it.
Okay, so I guess that's it for today. We will meet again next Sunday, and we will continue for all those who are new to the class. Don't get frightened that we did only one line. We do take it slowly in this class in the hope that we learn little, but whatever we do learn, we learn it properly. So we will take it slowly. We don't have like an end date and some tutorial that we have to finish by this date. We don't have it. We will go slowly and ensure that everybody has gotten it. So please feel free to ask your questions. And hopefully we will have a good solid understanding of chapter 15 at the end.